Thank you all for joining us today. This will be a grand presentation, I am sure. My name is Scott Whitty. I have the great honor of being the current president of IVRPA, with a magnificent board that is creating these great webinars and soon a return to the live conferences, which we'll talk about towards the end a little bit. And then tomorrow, there will also then be an introductory webinar to share more details about the webinar, about the conference. And we'll look forward to seeing many of you in person at the conference. Now, IVRPA, for any of you who are not familiar, is the only international organization dedicated to serve the needs and interests of the creative people in the VR, XR realm. And that is exactly what we are doing here by this webinar featuring Al and his presentation. I don't know how many of you are involved with VR video, but I can tell you that when I first started doing it a little bit, the first thing that struck me was just how very different it was than working with straight film or video. And every time I've tried it a little bit, I've come back thinking, oh my God, if only I had known this or that, I could have done so much better. Well, we have the great benefit of having a true expert in the field. Somebody who has been nominated for Emmy Awards, who has won many other international awards, who has worked for many of the biggest names in the industry. He'll perhaps tell you a little bit more about that. Before we get started, what I'd like to do is have put up a poll so that we could just get a little bit more background about what your backgrounds are. You should, I just, let's see, just launched the poll, and you should be able to start answering it. Question, by the way, it should be anonymous. I said it that way. So just pull up the poll, answer your questions, how you got into it, what your background is, what type of equipment you use. That'll help us a little bit in understanding how to address this. And it'll give us a little bit of information having to do with, I guess, who the people are who attend these webinars. Please don't be shy. Again, it's anonymous, so no one will know your true answers. You know what, Al, while people are finishing up the poll, do you want to come on, turn on your video camera so they don't have to keep looking at me? There you go. Much better, much better.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I'm honored to be with you guys today, all the way from Bangkok. It's 10 o'clock at night here in Bangkok. It's great to see everybody getting on board with this. I hope everybody fills out the poll. We want to kind of get an idea for everybody, where everybody's at with things. We know that not everybody that's on the group here tonight is in VR already. I'll tell you a little bit about me. I consider myself an immersive storyteller. Some of you know me already. To others, I'm a perfect stranger. Some call me 3D guy, and other people call me things that I shouldn't share in public because it's not some nice things sometimes. I've been very, very lucky, especially considering that I'm based here in Thailand. I've gotten to work with some amazing videographers and VR people and clients. Just so overwhelmed by all of it. I share the honor of having 2 Emmy nominations working with Alchemy Immersive out of London on Sir David Attenborough's 2 series that he did for Meta, Micro Monsters and Kingdom of Plants. And I'll show you a little bit more about that later because it's fascinating how they put that all together. And I think that's part of what I want to show you guys tonight is kind of, we talk about this as a storytelling language, that it's a new language, but actually it's just kind of changed. It's amended. It's shifted a little bit. Anybody who's been in 3D stereoscopic before, which I have been for a very long time, I think, you'll understand that. In fact, what I'm going to do, all right, I'll start sharing. Should I go ahead and start sharing my screen, Lauren? Scott?
Hang on, because it looks like
Want to wait?
pretty much everybody has answered the poll questions.
Oh, great.
I do want to give it just another half a minute for those who are reluctant to scroll down to the bottom and answer the questions towards the bottom.
And just to, you're seeing my office here, and you notice it's a really wide view. Actually, it's a lot wider than you think. I'm actually on my my Kandao Kucam 8K Enterprise. And I love this way of being able to present because it lets you see everything around and give you a bigger view. So I can show off some of my toys. You can see I've got multiple cameras set up just in case anything goes wrong with one. I've always got another one.
Yeah.
Scott, you want to go over the poll?
Yeah, I would say we're done. Okay, so now I end the poll and share the results. I hope that everyone can now see what the poll results are. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad to see that we have quite a variety of levels of experience from people, and surprising number of people who have already have cameras.
And it's a surprising number of people, I guess maybe not so surprising, because learning on their own, 83%, that's kind of, I think maybe that's more typical.
Well,
especially the age of everything. Interesting to me to see about still photography. Most of you guys are still photography or still VR. Not quite as many video people as I would have thought.
And that's actually, from my standpoint, good, because I think many of us are moving more and more into VR video. And I see that as a definite major market. So, all right, great. I'll stop sharing, and then I will, let's see, I do want to mention that this is being recorded, and it will be available on the IVRPA website if you are a member. It's in the members only section. These webinars are free and open to anybody in the community. If you want to watch it again or watch it on demand, that is one of those benefits of being an IVRPA member. We have all of our webinars are there, and a number of other from past conferences and other resources. For the $50 membership cost, it is an incredible bargain. So if you are not a member, I do encourage you to join. It'll be worthwhile, and gives you a massive discount on the conference if you are going to be able to attend there. The K, then at the end, like I mentioned, we'll have just a wee bit on what the conference will be. And then tomorrow morning we'll have a webinar about the conference itself. And with that said, I will shut off my camera and turn it over to Al. Oh, by the way,
Thank you, sir. Yes.
hang on. By the way, if you want to ask questions, I would ask you to open up your chat window and then write your question. But you'll notice right above your question, there is a blue button that'll tell you who actually gets to see the question. Be sure to click that and then click everyone if you want everyone to see what you are writing. If you don't, it only goes to the hosts and panelists. If you only want us to see it, fine, that's your choice. But if you want everyone to see it, you want to be able to talk to other people, click the that blue button and say everybody. And then as the webinar goes on, we'll be monitoring this. If you are asking a question, and then we'll drop it in, questions for Al. And then at the end of the presentation, we have a great guest,
Katya Bart from
thank you. I couldn't
DOVR.
remember the last name. All right, Katya. And from DOVR, who will be talking about, well, actually, I'll let Al talk about that a little bit later. And then we'll be opening it up to your questions live, back and forth to anybody on any subject you want. All right, now I am gone, and Al, it's up to you.
Thank you, sir. So basically, I've been doing this now for 40 years, and I have done almost 1,000 films between 2D and 3D and VR. Like I say, one of my bucket list achievements has been being able to work with Sir David Attenborough. Even if I didn't get to actually see him, I got to be involved in the production. I'm going to go ahead and share my presentation screen with you so you don't have to just keep looking at me. So let's go to the next one here. So one of the people that I've gotten to work with is Bill Gates, and I was really, really pleased when I got a call from them. And that was actually, I was referred by some people over at Meta. And Ian Saunders, the first day we shot, one of the things that really hit me was that he said that, you know, we researched all this and we thought we understood 360 and VR until we met you. And I took that as really high praise. And the shot on the right, by the way, is actually a 360 shot of him in his office in Seattle. The one in the middle and the one on the left are shots of him in India, in Delhi. And that was one of the 12 VR films that I have been a part of, sometimes just a very small part. But I've been very, very proud to have been able to work with him on that. And I've been very lucky, like I said. I also just put in 3 films into the Hollywood Guerrilla Film Festival, and I didn't really expect much out of it. And we came away with 4 awards. So I am thrilled to death. One of them, The Cave, I shot a couple of years ago, actually. And you might remember the story of the boys soccer team that was trapped in the cave here in Thailand. And this was the first production. And what was so cool is the director of the first film that was done on it, Tom Waller, who is half Thai and half Irish. That's an interesting combination. He basically said he loved the idea of me coming down to the set. He let me do 3 or 4 scenes that we redid them in 360, or rather VR 180, sorry. And then I also did a tour with him of the facility. And that's one of the ones that won award for uplifting video. The Crown was a VR 180, very art performance of a male pole dancer who, it's amazing how good that is, because you're sitting there and he's right in front of you swinging around on this pole. And then Forced Out is a very good story. It's a very powerful story about the Klung Toi slum here in Bangkok, which is a really bad slum. But it's been there for like 50 years because it was built in the port area and they needed a place for the workers to live. And then all of a sudden somebody got the bright idea of, well, why don't we turn that into like a mega mall and resort area? And they were going to kick all these people out that have lived there for so many years. And fortunately, that whole thing has stopped. So that's kind of interesting. But those were really a thrill that we managed to get some awards for that. So I've spent the last 22 years in Thailand. I've taught at Mahidol University, and I've managed to travel all over the world creating 3D stereoscopic, 4K, and VR films. I've been shot in China, Russia, Mongolia, France, England, India, Myanmar, Cambodia. I didn't even list Thailand, USA, of course. We even went out into the Gobi Desert. There's me riding a camel on that left-hand shot there. And almost all of these, except for Delhi, which they were kind of worried about things, so they wouldn't let me bring my wife along because she's my partner, she's my extra eyes, and I can't say enough good things about my wife, B. But really, we are really an immersive family. Even though on the Sir David Attenborough stuff, they would only allow us to put 2 names in the credits. You see here, we were all working on the project, my 2 sons and my daughter and my wife. So we are an immersive family. I got my start with 3D in one form or another way back with when I got my first ViewMaster. I don't know how many others in the group here had a ViewMaster, but I was hooked immediately. I loved it, and I loved seeing all the faraway images, and that's what made me want to travel and go crazy places. And believe me, I have gone some crazy places. You see in the Shark Tank there with the Gates underwater housing, and that had the Panasonic 3D-A1. The right-hand side there, that's my wife, and we're shooting inside an active sulfur volcano in East Java. And you see the crocodile down on the bottom side there. So I've done some crazy stuff. I got into 3D just about the time that James Cameron, a little bit before James Cameron started talking about releasing Avatar, the first one. And then it was followed in 2010 with the introduction of 3D TVs. And I started creating 3D TV shows. I self-produced 24 30-minute 3D TV shows, and they were distributed to 65 countries around the world. I worked with Getty 3D in London and Blend Media in Tokyo. And then I call it the Great Depression hit, the death of 3D TVs. There's a long list of culprits as to why that didn't go over, but it was the end. And I kind of went back to doing 4K for a while. And then when VR came along, I realized that VR was 3D's best friend. And so I jumped into VR in a big way. I've been doing it about 12 years now. And again, some crazy stuff. That bottom left-hand side with that King Cobra, that film actually was used by Jimmy Kimmel in a skit that they did, Face Your Fears with Guillermo on, if you're familiar with Jimmy Kimmel's show. And I just continue to do a lot of interesting and wonderful, wonderful projects that I'm so proud of. On the left there, that's a shot. That was that little girl in the middle was the last polio case in India. Now, we're talking about wild polio. There's different strains, but she actually went through so much because at one point she wasn't able to walk, and now she's able to be, thanks to a lot of therapy, she's able to play with her friends again. The one in the middle, I went to Yanks Air Museum in Chino. Wonderful people there, and I did a bunch of videos attaching the VR camera to the outside of the plane and me on the inside with it mounted on my head. And then I have an oldie there, my 3D contraption that I put together using 2 GoPros and the extension cable, but I made it to where it extended so I could adjust the interaxial. So I've worked with a lot of different cameras and a lot of different, I've been very lucky to work with beta testing a lot of cameras. And we've come a long way. I mean, on that left-hand side up there, you see the very first 3D film camera. And down in the middle there, then you see the Kando Obsidian Pro, which is a 12K beast. So it's been a wonderful, wonderful adventure. And actually, my favorite camera is the one on the right, the Canon R5C. I just love shooting 8K RAW with that 12-bit color and making 3D VR 180. I think VR 180 is going to be the big breakthrough. It just hasn't, it's coming. It's getting there. So now you know a little about me. So let's talk about this new language business. So a new language, and like I said before, I think really in the 3D world that I've been in, we've always kind of had a unique language into our own. You know, we talk about binocular vision, we talk about parallax, 3D space continuity, interaxial, interocular, and even stereoscopic terms. These are all terms that the average layperson doesn't use and may not even understand. So perhaps rather than saying this is a new language for storytelling, it's more of a supplement or a new chapter. If you guys have any questions or any comments, please feel free to jump in. There's a question over here. I'm not sure. Let's see. Oh, you had a Viewmaster and loved it. Okay, I got you there. I may jump back and forth because I've got 3 screens in front of me, and sometimes I get a little bit lost when I go along. So let's stop talking about the future and take a look at the past a little bit. Let's look at the origins of virtual reality and VR headsets. As you can see here, we've got a wide variety of VR headsets from the Oculus Rift S, the Quest 1, the Quest 2, the Quest 3, the Neo, the Pico Neo 2, the Neo 3, the G2 4K, the Pico 4. How many of you guys have headsets? Or how many want to get headsets? And is anybody thinking about getting the Apple Vision Pro? No, I don't see anybody responding to that. You know, if you're not going to get one, then please go ahead and just send the money to me so I can buy one, because I'm not going to spend that kind of money on it. All right, let's get into it a little bit more. So with VR, you kind of had 3 varieties to choose from. You've got 360 flat or mono. You've got 3D 360, which is done as top bottom. And you've got 3D VR 180, where it's side by side, which is kind of a callback to, for those of you guys who know about 3D stereoscopic, with 3D stereoscopic, you also had a choice of top bottom or side by side. So there are some similarities. The biggest difference being that you have more spatial awareness because of the spherical nature of the VR rather than the flat with 3D depth, more like a window. Whereas with VR, it wraps around you. And I really believe that any story can be told in VR. It simply means that you have to visualize and construct your production in a different way. Your visual canvas is bigger, and the details become even more important in order to maintain the immersive nature of the production. But the storytelling basics are pretty much the same. You're still start, middle, end. You're still telling all the elements of a basic story. And it all starts with your idea for what story you want to tell. There's many ways to approach the story building. You can do the 3 C's method with conflict, characters, and climax. Others prefer the 3 P's, people, passion, and purpose. But no matter which method you use, there are some different parameters when it comes to VR storytelling. First of all, like I said, you need to decide which VR format you're going to shoot in. And there are different guidelines for each and different considerations. So let's kind of go through the different ones. First of all, you've got 2D monoscopic 360 cameras. You see the QCam 8K Enterprise on the left-hand side, showing the 2 cameras, which is actually what you're seeing. If I show you, when you looked at me on my screen, that's what you're seeing. In fact, I should be over in the corner there. Can you see the tiny planet? There we go. And then I'll go back to fisheye. In the middle there, we have the Views XR, which was a fantastic camera. I really loved it. Unfortunately, the company wasn't able to maintain enough sales to keep going. But that was a great hybrid camera because you could shoot 360 or you could shoot VR 180. I do think the VR 180 was a little bit better than their 360. They never quite, the 360 wasn't 100%. And then we have Insta360, which God bless them. They keep churning out new cameras. They've gone a little bit more towards 2D with some of their newer entries. But part of this, we're still feeling the effects of COVID and the shortage of chips. And they're still catching up to that, which is why you haven't seen more breakthrough in cameras. You've seen it with VR headsets, because let's face it, when COVID was going on, nobody could go out and shoot anything. It was a great time to watch VR, though. So let's get into a little bit more about the different cameras. The Kando QCam 8K Enterprise was a pretty unique camera because it's able to be used. It's got a full-size HDMI port and an RJ45 connector. I love this camera, and I have 5 of them because I was tasked with doing the Manchester United versus Liverpool live 360 using 5 cameras, and we built a custom VR application for both VR headsets and phones so that people could choose which camera they wanted to watch, or they could watch the standard switched feed where we switched following the action of the game. And it was a fantastic success. It was wonderful. It was also the first time in the world that's been done, and that was back in July 2023. Let's see, and we'll go on to the next shot here. That's kind of an idea of the kind of view you have. So if you wanted to be down behind one of the goals, there was one behind each of the goal lines, and then there was one next to each one of the benches for the players for each of the teams. And then we had another one that captured a little bit more of the crowd. And then a few weeks later, we actually did another one using 3 cameras, doing a Muay Thai bout with a very famous Muay Thai boxer, Bukao, and he was fighting a Japanese fighter named Kuto, and that was another first. Unfortunately, they haven't done any since because in Thailand, unfortunately, only now are they getting to be able to, there are Pico stores here in Thailand. The Quest, if anybody wants to buy it, they have to actually have it shipped in from out of country. So it kind of makes it hard for the industry to grow here until we break through that. Then we have the next type of cameras, 3D 360. And we've got some fantastic cameras. I love the Insta360 Pro 2 with Farsight. One of the things that when you're shooting with a 360 camera is you want to be able to see what you're shooting. But what I tell all of my crew when they get on site is, if you can see the camera can see you. And the other problem that you ran into is that most of the cameras before this were using Wi-Fi. And if you got behind a tree or if you got inside a building, you lost the signal. But the packets that they use with without getting into technical details, but the signal made it to where you could actually be completely out of sight and still see what you were shooting. So that was a huge jump forward. That system, then the other camera that we're seeing here is the Titan, which is a beast and shoots up to 11K, I think. And then on the right-hand side, we've got the Kando Obsidian Pro, which was used for the Artemis launch, and that was pretty cool. I don't know how many people have got to see that, but that was pretty awesome that they used that 360 camera to be able to watch the launch. And they had to set up several times because of the delays, unfortunately. And then we get to my favorite, VR 180, 3D VR 180, and we've got 4 different cameras up here. Up on the upper right, that's the K1 Pro, which with the iZugar lenses, and that's a fantastic camera. I still have my K1 Pro and still use it sometimes. Down below it is the K2 Pro, which one of the wonderful things about it is increased the shooting variables so that you could shoot 60 frames per second which for VR, the faster the shutter speed, the frames per second, the more clear it is in the headset, the more smooth it is. You can sometimes get a little bit of judder with fast motion at 30 frames per second, and 60 kind of solves that. The Views XR is a great consumer, but yet I was able to use it on some of my Muay Thai shoots as a B-roll camera, and I was still able to match it up with the K1 Pro. And then the camera that I have totally fallen in love with, you know, it's I love to shoot every day if I could, and that's the Canon R5C, which came out after the R5 because the R5 unfortunately had some problems with overheating when trying to shoot that 8K RAW, and the R5C, you don't run into that problem. So with this is the lens for the Canon, the ultra-wide 5.2 millimeter dual fisheye lens, and it only works. Everybody asked this right away. Can I just buy the lens because it's like $2,000? Can I just buy the lens and put it on another camera? Yes and no. The problem is that the camera is an electronic lens, and so it needs to have the firmware that's built into certain Canon cameras. So right now, there are officially only 3 cameras that it works on. That's the R5, the R5C, and the R6 Mark II. Now, there's been a lot of talk at the CES show. They showcased basically an APS-C version of the lens. They also came out with one which, funny enough, harkens back to my 3D days, and that's a small. I should have put this into the presentation. Sorry about that, but it's got 2 small lenses, and it looks about the size of a standard 50 millimeter lens, but it's got 2 small lenses inside it. And then Canon's also going to be, hopefully, they haven't officially announced yet, but they actually are working on a hybrid, kind of along the lines of the Views XR, where it'll be able to shoot 360, and then you fold out the lens, and you'll be able to shoot VR 180.
Hey,
there is, yes, sir.
Excuse me, we had a question here from Jim Michael. It says, please address the viewer as participant in VR, particularly where the actors are in what would normally be a private moment. Would you ever transition between viewer as participant versus viewer as observer?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, some of the best ways to go. I mean, one of the things about VR 180 that I love is being able to put it in front of the actor, in front of his head, more or less, in front as his eyes, and still be able to see his body, and then transition away to a third-person view. And yes, that works very well. It's all about the story and about how you want to block your shots, how you want to tell the story. Do you want to you could even switch from first-person view of one character to first-person view of another character, and then switch to a third-person view. It all depends on the scripting of the story as well. So yeah, absolutely, that's something you can do. There's another. What do you think of the difference between VR films and traditional films in sort of audio-visual language? Ooh, that's an interesting one. Can you guys see are you seeing my video as well? Besides, or should I switch off of stop share for a second?
Yeah,
I can stop
there
share for a second. Let me do this. Okay. This is my weapon of choice for audio video whenever I can. This is a Zoom H8, and it's got the ambisonic mic set that attaches to it. One of the great things about this is that it actually has an accelerometer built in, so that you can either shoot like this or you can shoot like this. And if you're wrong, it'll tell you. Plus, you can do additional feeds, so you can put microphones into this, as well as capturing the ambisonic. So yeah, is that kind of what you were looking for with the audiovisual language? I'm not sure what you're going for there. Alex asked, would I approach VR more like a theatrical experience than a cinematic? I think that again, that depends on the story. Night before last, I shot an art performance, a burlesque theater. And you got burlesque performers. They're actually not on a strict stage. They're coming out into the crowd. They're moving around. There are multiple stages. So again, it really depends on what my story is that I'm trying to tell as to what approach I'm going to take with it. I also love doing more cinematic, where you've got an actual narrative that you're telling with actors. And that's a whole different way of presenting. So it depends on what you want to do. But I think ambisonic is so important, because if you guys don't understand ambisonic, basically it's kind of 3D audio, where you have, with ambisonic, you have up, down, left, right, and in, out. And then there's also level 1, which gives you a reduced field. You don't quite have that total immersion. But when you get into level 2 and higher, you do get some beautiful, it just tracks in your headset. And, people say, well, if you're doing VR 180, why do you need ambisonic? You still want to have that feeling, just like in the theater. You don't have anything behind you, but when they play their audio to introduce that they've got surround sound in the theater, there's always that jet that comes from the back and zooms out to the front, or vice versa. So audio is crucial for helping to maintain the immersion in your shoot.
Hey Al, can you hold up the camera you're holding to the closer to the lens so we can see
which
it?
camera?
That one, yeah.
Okay, this is the this is actually not, this is the audio recorder.
Okay, gotcha.
So this is the audio recorder, and this is the detachable. This is what's so cool about this. This is detachable, so that you can use a simple XY microphone, or you can just use it as a recorder by plugging in with XLR or 1/4 inch. So it's a very versatile unit, and I use it all the time. And then for those of you who are interested, I'll bring this a little closer. This is kind of my standard setup most times with the R5C. So here you have the camera. In the back, we've got our monitor. And I love this monitor. This is an OC monitor. And one of the things that's so cool is I took a Google Cardboard and I adapted it. And it's just the perfect size, so that if I want to check my 3D, I can go ahead and put this on and check my 3D and see how my distance is and how my depth is. And one of the things that normally I do is I put the camera, normally when you're taught how to position a camera on a tripod, the front leg should always be out front, supporting the camera and the lens. But if you do that with VR 180, you've got to extend it out so far, because you're getting 180 to 200 degrees angle of view. And so you see the feet. Whereas if you put it on a slider like this, to where you can extend it and you lean it out over the edge, and then of course you do have to go ahead and counterbalance. But that makes sure that you don't see, and I usually put it, I don't know if you can see where the legs are, but I'm in between 2 legs, and the back leg is straight back. So you do have to worry about balance a little bit more. One of the other things about the Canon R5C is that in order to shoot the 8K RAW 12-bit color, you need additional power. So I have a few different devices that I use. This is a Zendure Super Tank Pro, which I tell you, this thing will run all day. I'm just so happy with this. Another one that I have that I use, this is a little bit more for out in the field. This is an IVRPA, and this was on a Kickstarter and an Indiegogo campaign. And it's also got a built-in light in it too. And it's, when you have it sealed, it's waterproof. So if you're out in the field, that's a good one to be able to use. So I have different ones for different purposes and different shoots. It all depends on what I'm doing. But this, like I said, this is my favorite way of shooting. You do have to be a little bit careful with your fingers, because it is so wide that if you try to do your hand like you normally do for focusing, you're going to see your hand in the shot. So I've actually put a gear on it to extend it a little bit more. And you see the little connector here. I'm not sure if you can really see it good. I try to move the light a little bit, but it's kind of hard to see. But I've got a little connector so that I can get my finger and I can stay behind the camera and still adjust the focus. Let's see. Yeah, somebody here talking about, who's this? This is Donnie. I feel for you, Donnie. I understand what you're talking about. We all suffered through that whole COVID thing where all of a sudden work stopped. We just didn't have anything more. Let me go back to my screen and I'm gonna show you one other device that you can use now for recording. And you see down here, we've got the Pico 4, and up here, we've got the Quest 3. Well,
hi, this is Al Caudullo, and this is VR for you. I'm going to be doing reviews, tutorials, and a whole lot more about VR from right inside my Pico headset.
so I went out on the street.
Fantastic color pass-through. I feel like I could keep this on all day. And right now, we're here in Bangkok at MBK Center.
You'll notice I used my son to go ahead and shoot at the same time so that you could actually see that what I was doing. And I did get some pretty crazy looks, but I'm kind of crazy anyway, so.
These really cool dogs and pseudo chrome Christmas trees behind us. This is pretty cool. Let's walk over here. There's a famous Canadian coffee shop and donut place.
Tim Hortons. So that gives you and that's another way for you to go. And in fact, the Quest 3, if you use a third-party program that you sideload, you can go ahead and with the 2 cameras that are built in, you can shoot full color pass-through in 3D. And so this is another way. Now, it's not quite 180. I have to say that's maybe about 110. Yeah, that's about as much, 110 degrees, certainly not 180. But the results are really good. And you can, what's really wild is when you're recording at about 90 frames per second. So that actually gives you a really smooth view. I actually did a tour where my daughter was, there's a brand new super mall that opened up here in Bangkok a few weeks ago. And we went through and did a tour of it. And she was shooting with the Q-Cam in 360. And I had this on my head walking around the mall shooting with the color pass through, and I didn't get dizzy and I didn't fall down, so I guess that was pretty good. We'll talk about
Al Caudullo, and
we'll talk about distributors and talk about some of the other things, but let's talk a little bit more about VR shot planning and execution, and just a few. We're just going to touch briefly on the things that you kind of have to keep in mind. So we've already talked about, are you going to shoot 2D 360, 3D 360, or 3D VR 180, or mixed? I've done some that are mixed, and we'll talk about that in just a moment too. You have to decide which camera you're going to use. Are you going to rent it? Are you going to buy it? Do you already own a VR camera? What kind of budget do you have for buying a VR camera? At this point, with everything that you need, the minimum I think that you're looking at is about $1,000. Even if you just go with something like an Insta360, if you just get the accessories, the monopods, the tripods, the gimbal, if you're doing VR 180. So, with 360, you don't need the gimbal because they've got basically, it'll smooth itself out and straighten it out and looks great. The bigger 360 cameras like the Insta360 Pro 2 or the Titan, you're definitely not going to do many moving shots with those because they're just too big and awkward, especially the Titan. It's about the size of a soccer ball and a pretty hefty weight. So you have to decide who's your audience, what's going to work with the story that you want to tell. And one of the things that you always have to keep in mind, and this is something that started back with 3D stereoscopic, don't rush your shots. Quick cuts don't work well in VR. If you do them too much, people are going to get sick because you've got a screen that's 1 inch away from your eyeballs. You start flashing things around, boy, you're going to send somebody into a shock. So, you know, VR is called the empathy machine, and that's what you want to do. You want to try and get close enough to your subjects to make you feel empathy for them. So how close do you get? What is the scope of the environment that you're shooting in? What kind of shot blocking are you doing? How do you preview the shot? These are all questions that you have to decide on, and it all becomes different based on what format that you're going to use. So let's go into a little bit about the pros and cons of format choices and the different cameras. So for 2D cameras, the pros, the cameras can be a lot more affordable. They're great for landscape-based projects. You get good stabilization, but you still get good immersion. You get less chance of motion sickness with 2D 360 than 3D 360. You don't have any blind spots. Now that's a pro and a con. You get a higher degree of immersion, up to 8K resolution with 2D 360, up to 10-bit color, and it can be viewed on a mobile phone. The cons, like I said, it's harder to hide the crew. If you can see the camera can see you. So unless you're you build your crew into the shot, you got to get them to hide. It's also much more difficult to add lighting. So most times, you know, my 2D 360 most times is just available light. And that means I've got to shoot at the right time of day, or I've got to find a location where the shadows and the sun and everything work together to help tell the story. And also, hiding the spatial recorder, it's no easy feat depending upon the size of it. And you don't have any blind spots. So that's the con of it. And most people, honestly though, most people don't look behind when they're in their headset. They may look a little bit at the beginning of your story, and unless you've got something that draws them to look around behind them, like somebody starts talking from behind, and so then it gets them to turn around. And there are some special techniques that you need to do for walking shots. You can't just walk regular. It's more like a steady cam kind of walk because you can't bounce. Okay, 3D 360, pros and cons. You really get the ultimate immersion when you're talking about 3D 360. But the cameras and this is, I consider this a pro and a con. The cameras use computational 3D, and I'll explain about that a little bit right after we get through this slide. The cameras are bigger, they're more expensive. The Farsight, the Insta360 Pro 2 with Farsight is around $5,000 plus for all the little extras. But you do get up to 12K resolution and up to 12-bit color. The cons, the cameras are bigger. They're very difficult to add lighting. Again, hiding the audio recorder is difficult. No blind spots. You're going to have trouble getting your audience to look behind. You have to do things to get them to kind of trick them into moving behind. And on mobile phones, if they're watching it, they're not going to see 3D. So, you know, it isolates you a little bit more. So now let's talk just quickly about the two types of 3D. We have true or natural 3D stereo, where, for instance, this is the Views Plus, which was a pretty cool camera when it came out. In fact, it was the first camera in space. One of the astronauts took it up into the space station and shot 3D 360 from the space station before Felix and Paul did it, and a lot cheaper. And each camera, each side, you have a left and a right, and they don't infringe on each other. The only problem is at the edges, your 3D isn't the greatest, and that's an issue. But that's also an issue when you get into computational. And this is one you really got to try and wrap your head around. You know, you've got each camera is both a left and a right, depending upon which way you're looking. And so the camera has to, the software has to put that all together and make it work. Some say it's better, I think that natural 3D is better than computational. Now, if you want to get into really cheap, you can get this KuCam little fun 360 camera. And this attaches, let me turn off the audio. This attaches to your phone and you turn it upside down and you're able to shoot 360. And it auto loads the application with your approval. And then when you plug it in after that, once the application is loaded, it automatically turns on the app and lets you go ahead and start shooting. It's cool for consumer type stuff. It's fun. You can do pictures, you can do vlogging, you can even do 180 with it if you wanted to, but it's only 2D 180. So now we get back to the one that I love so much, the 3D VR 180. The pros to it is it's more like shooting traditional filmmaking, where you have a crew space behind the camera. It's much easier to add lighting. It's easier to use spatial audio recorders. Viewers are used to looking straight ahead anyway. I mean, we're trained from birth. From the first time we're sat in front of the TV and that picture comes on, we look at the TV straight ahead. We're not used to looking around. Right now, you can get up to 8K resolution, but that's going to be changing. There's some talk about 12K, and I've heard somebody talk about 16K as well. I think that's just getting a little crazy at this point. Up to 12-bit raw color, which that's a huge, huge thing. And we don't have time to get into that tonight, but we'll probably cover it in another webinar or at our conference in Las Vegas in June. It shoots 59.94 frames per second, and it uses natural 3D. It's great for performances in concerts, and it can be viewed on a phone in 2D. So you're not going to get the 3D. The 3D is the premium experience when you put on the headset, but you can still look at what you've shot with your phone. The con is that the focus can be a little bit tricky. So I always use peaking. If you understand what peaking is, it's an outline around the edge of your subjects in the image. And as you turn the focus, that becomes more intense. And that's how you do your focus. It is manual focus. It's not automatic focus. You also need to use CF Express cards type B, which are fairly expensive. And a 1 terabyte CF Express card only holds 52 minutes of video. Shadows can be problematic. You've got to watch, with the camera and making sure that shadows are not falling into your shot. The optimal distance is really about 1 to 5 feet and about 120-degree angle of view. Anything outside of that 120 degrees, you start to get a fall off of the 3D effect. And you really need to always have foreground, midground, and background. Let's face it, when we look at a tall building in the distance, it really doesn't look 3D to us. We know that it is, but it doesn't look it in the image. So you have to take that into consideration. And the best 3D, as I mentioned, is in the center of the lens. The 8K resolution files are huge. Unfortunately, there's no full-size HDMI port, and I learned this the hard way. I've got a strain relief to try and keep from pulling it out, but I made the mistake of pulling it out one day while it was on, and I had to get my whole main board replaced on my camera. I was crying a lot that day. You do need external power for the VR lens. So as I mentioned before, I use a variety of different power supplies to give PD-rated power. And of course, there's no 3D on the mobile phone. So again, you're using true 3D stereos. Now, there is another way to go, and that's 3D volumetric video. It's very experimental, although it's being used more. It's only good in isolated cases. It's huge as far as the computational power that you need to be able to do it. But once you scan in an actor, you can actually combine it now with Unity and with CG and make them move independent of what they're actually doing. So with immersive storytelling, you've got to figure your story style. Passive audience, this is where the viewer is sitting in the audience, like experience a play or a concert. An involved participant, where you make the viewer part of the story. It's harder to do, but it's definitely more immersive. Or make the viewer part of the story. And this is kind of a mix of the two, like I mentioned before, where you do first person and third person, depending upon what you're doing, and maybe even break the wall by talking into the camera. It depends on what the production is. And as I mentioned before, also about ambisonic audio, they have a standalone unit also, Zoom does, and it's excellent as well. Then we get into kind of a little bit more of some of the off-brand kind of things. We're shooting underwater. This is a underwater rig. Here you see something that was used up on the space station, which was a Z-cam that was modified up in the space station. And if you haven't seen the Felix and Paul stuff from that, it's just fantastic. You really feel like you're on the space station with them. It's a little bit more specialized. And Views Plus actually came out with a true professional aluminum underwater housing. The only problem is the camera was about $1,200. The underwater housing was $3,000. So that was a little bit difficult to swallow. Not many of those got sold. Okay. Sir David Attenborough, a great Alchemy Immersive did just an amazing job with this. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but Micro Monsters was actually done as a 3D TV show. And then what they did is they repurposed it and combined it. And Daniel Burry in Australia and myself here in Thailand and my family, we added in additional shots to go ahead and kind of, I like to think of it as the thread that pulled it all together. Here's a little example of it. And you'll see how they're using both video and, let's see, is it going to show it right? Yep, okay. It's cutting it off a little bit there. But this gives you an idea of how they put it together. And a lot of these insect shots were done with what's called a cube rig, which you see there in front of David Attenborough. It's two red cameras pointed towards the center with basically a prism in the center to go ahead and capture the two different angles so they could create good 3D. So if you get a chance, if you've got it's only available on the Quest headset, but if you get a chance to watch it, I would definitely recommend that you watch it. All 5. Here you see a little bit more. You can see the cube rig, and you can see the side-by-side rig up here. And they also use the mirror rig, which if you're familiar with 3D, that's another type of rig. This was the story about the Bangkok slum. And this is an area in Bangkok, which you see how dense the population is. This is an area that's called the Green Lung, Ban Ka Chao. And one of the reasons is it's kind of shaped like a lung. And we were tasked with getting rainforest shots, but at the time, everything had just closed down for COVID. So what I came up with a stroke of genius, I like to think, instead of driving all over the place trying to get into national parks that were closed, we went 40 minutes to Ban Ka Chao, and we went up to the top of the bird tower, which is a 3-story tower for people to watch the birds in the area. And I used a mini jib and attached it with a big C-clamp. And basically we did most of our shots there, and then we went down into the jungle area and shot there. But the funny thing is if you can get up high enough, you would have seen the Bangkok skyline behind us. But that shows you, that's the magic of storytelling. If you do, again, if either on DOVR, which I'm going to talk just a little bit about, we're running kind of long here, guys. Am I okay for time? Scott?
Yeah, I would say so. I don't.
Okay.
We haven't lost hardly anybody.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I did, because I was involved with this, I did this great, I loved actually doing this. The gentleman there with that big smiling face, that's Elliot Graves. And he was the alchemy immersive guy that was in charge of everything. And what I did was I got him to go on camera with me. And here's a great example of how you can mix formats. If you get a chance to take a look at this, it is really, we go into detail about the special effects that were used, how they did all this. And what's even better is that I was sitting here in my office, just the way you see me on the screen here. And Elliot had a camera in his office in London. Unfortunately, he didn't have a VR camera, which I thought that was a little bad. But he didn't have a VR camera, so we shot it in 2D. And then at the same time, we were on a Zoom call doing the live interview. And then I put it all together and I did a picture-in-picture of Elliot in 2D on the 3D VR 180 video. So it's a very, very cool experience. If you get a chance, it's available on Meta TV, and also on DOVR. So, what is an immersive story, and what does it call for different cameras? I worked with UNICEF a few years ago, and we wanted to teach these disabled, marginalized kids how to create stories in VR. And Tone, who, God rest his soul, has passed away since this was shot, he was in a motorized wheelchair going through Vietnam, through Hanoi, and so, actually, sorry, Saigon. And I attached the camera to, you can kind of see the little bracket there. I attached the camera to his wheelchair for him to be able to tell his story. So as you're watching him move along the streets, and they're not too wheelchair friendly there, it really gives you a sense of the peril that he had to go through just to be able to go to work. And he worked as a graphics artist. So that was a great way to be able to tell his story. For VR 180, one of the early ones that I did that I had a lot of fun with, this is a first-person horror short called Senseless. And it's where this girl is the helpless victim. You see she's tied to the chair. The camera is her eyes. And this is her perpetrator that took her into this basement of this hotel, and is doing all sorts of terrible things. So that was, that's people were really freaked out watching that, because they couldn't walk away from it. They couldn't get away from it. They had the headset on. They were that person. So it was a very unique kind of situation. This is more where, when you talk about landscape, this is Tam Khao Kiao. It's a monk's camp in Thailand. And what I did was I used the Views Plus to do 3D 360, because you got all these Buddhas around. It's a beautiful environment. And I wanted people to feel like they were there. Going back over to Forced Out, here's a little sample of what we did with it. I'm going to turn down the audio. For the interview with her, which is how we started out, there's subtitles there, but you can't really see them in this small screen. What I did was I did VR 180 because I wanted that 3D feeling. We sat on the floor with her as she cried and told us about her plight. But outside in this Klong Toi slum, you have, I'm going to fast forward this up. You have a lot of, there we go. You have very small streets. They're very narrow. And so there was one time I couldn't get away from the shadow. You can see that. But I used a 360 camera, Insta360 1X, to go ahead and give you a really good feeling of how tight and claustrophobic and how small that whole area was. And one of the things that was really cool that we did is this area is right by the port, so we couldn't fly any drones. So instead, we got in a longboat on the river, and I used a boom pole, and I held the camera up, and let's see if I can bring it up to that, to where we can see that. It's a little hard to fast forward. her room is like one room with a bathroom, and that's it. And how she makes her money, she's partially paralyzed on one side, and how she makes her money is she sells desserts to the school children. And so, you know, it was an amazing, and here's our wrap up with the reporter. So it was a great way to go ahead and mix formats. And this one, we won an award at the Hollywood Guerrilla Film Festival for wealth inequality. Here you see a little bit more of it. And you see I'm using a ring light with the Views XR. This was before I had the Canon. So you can do professional work with smaller cameras. So how do you mix and how do you plan for it? 3D 360 always works, even in 2D, because even if you shoot 360 in 2D, you can make another copy, put it directly on top of itself on the timeline, and then you've got 3D 360, but it's only in 2D. Then when you get to the VR 180, you get to experience the 3D, and it worked very, very well. And we use traditional 2D as picture-in-picture inserts in the story to be able to tell the story. So really, it all starts with planning. You know, mixing the formats appeals to a wider variety of audiences. 8K really changed the game. That's the only thing that I shoot in now is 8K or higher. And you create unique content, and the high resolution, especially with these beautiful, the Quest 3 and the Pico 4 are just beautiful headsets. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. How do we make money with VR? Now, some have estimated that by 2030, mixed reality economy could reach $5 trillion. Now, I've tried YouTube, and my channel has 27 million views and almost 54,000 subscribers. And YouTube is very unpredictable. It's an up and down roller coaster if you make any money. Sometimes I've made some really good money, and other times I got a lot of views and didn't make much money. So along comes DOVR. And this is my channel on DOVR. And I have to tell you, these guys, they're a small outfit. They're keeping it kind of tight. Katya is going to talk about that a little bit. Katya, are you there? I see you there, but I don't see your camera's not on. Do you want to talk a little bit about, little bit about DOVR?
Absolutely. Let me turn on my camera.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Can we see her, or do I have to stop screen share? I think I have to stop screen share so we can see her.
Well, okay.
Okay.
Otherwise, we were able to see her, but that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Hi, everyone.
All right, go ahead, Katya.
Yeah, so I work for DOVR. I'm sure a lot of you already know about DOVR. And as Al said, yes, we keep it tight, we keep it small. We keep our budgets under control just to make sure that we stay afloat and we keep going, because as you probably know, a lot of other sharing platforms, Samsung, there are a lot, like the list goes on. Even YouTube VR, they all went kind of not out of business, but they stopped investing into VR. I had a few chats with people who used to work for YouTube VR, and they had budgets. They had like buildings full of people. They were organizing webinars. They were giving out cameras. Departments working for, like VR departments working for YouTube. Right now, it's all stopped. It doesn't work anymore. The same feedback is about Pico. I know that Pico, Al probably knows about it. He can confirm. But Pico manufacturer were financing some projects and some productions in the past. Right now, they just stopped. It's like cold stop, and they only want to sell the headset. That's it. They don't invest into content anymore. So I would say that what we're doing right now is we're keeping it small, we're keeping it tight, we're trying to get still trying to find the right format for the VR. I think TikTok, this is one of the ideas. TikTok in VR might be really, really good, because the attention span is very short in VR. I mean, you watch something and then you jump to something else. I agree that storytelling is amazing, and we need very good stories, and we need longer films and documentaries. And Al is doing a great job. Thank you so much for uploading and for being in DOVR. And but we do need to cater to a different audience and younger audience as well, and they use a lot of TikTok. So something that we're planning to implement on DOVR is build your own journey. It's going to be just like a tool. I actually had a chance to play with it, and it was so cool. I loved it so much. What you can do is you can set up different timelines from different videos. We also have a support for pictures, images coming to DOVR. So you will be able to create your own playlists as a user, or you will be able to create your own videos as a creator. And you can create it from your own work. You can even borrow some of the other creators' work and put it like in a nice experience. There
So
will
like
be
a remix.
transitions. It's kind of like a premix, yes, but it has infinite possibilities because it's like a branching video. So what you can do is you can create transitions, and then based on the transition, there could be 5 transitions, 6 transitions, 7 transitions. In the future, we want heat maps as well. So there will be like an action. For example, you will have to touch something in the video. Once you touch it, you can go to the next piece of video, but it's going to be very easy and interactive, and people will be able to jump from one video to another. And for example, they can start in a horror movie, but then they can jump into a beautiful meditation, then they can jump into something else, or they can land on Mars. And it's more of a TikTok style, I would say. So we're still trying to find this sweet spot where we offer something different than anyone else. And this is one of the ideas. So we want to make it very easy for the creators, because I know right now to create an experience, you have to be proficient in Unity or Unreal, and then you have to build it up. So we're just going to make it very, very simple. You just set up timestamps, and you're going to say, okay, I want this video to play from second 10 to second 20, and then you jump to the next section. I want this kind of transition. Then I want to happen this and this and this in the video. So it's going to be very easy. So we're constantly innovating, and I know that sometimes we're not the best at like rolling out a new update. When there is a new update, something breaks and we have to fix it. But the reason is that we're trying to keep it tight, and we're planning to just keep going. I know that DOVR will succeed. We will be as big as, not as big as Meta, because we don't have the budgets for it, but we will get there. We will get there. I think we will be growing in 2 years. We should be able to support the creators. So the main idea as well, I know a lot of people are asking about monetization. Right now, the idea is to create an ecosystem where we can have the user base and we can have the creators, and we can allow the creators to make money on the platform. It's been growing nicely. So I've been working for DOVR for approximately 2 years. We've started with, I don't know, like 50 experiences, 50 videos on the platform, and not many users. There was no subscription, there was nothing. Right now, we've added subscription through Oculus TV. So we're getting more users coming through Oculus Store. Oculus users, a lot of users with Quest 3, they come to our platform. So we had like we saw a big raise, and a lot of new subscribers from Quest 3. It's the same for Apple Pro. Once the Apple Pro headset is out, I think it's like out in a few days, we're planning to get a support on our for our player, and we will get more users. Also, I had a call with our buying media specialist, so we're planning to roll out ads. I think you're going to be very, very happy with this. We're planning to roll out some ads and get more users, because we need to get the word out. We need to get more users on the platform. The more users we have, the more we can pay out to the creators. So right now, the way it works is there is a pool of money. We collect the pool of money from our users, and then we redistribute a share. It's roughly around 70%. 70% of the pool of the money is distributed between the creators. And it's based on how many seconds of your videos are watched every month. So uploading frequently or re-uploading to the channel makes a big difference. Also, longer pieces. I know Al has longer documentaries. They do really well on DOVR.
Yes, they do.
Yes. If you guys have any questions, let me just have a look at the question section, and Al, you can keep ask.
Sure.
Yes.
First of all, I
back to
think
you.
a lot of the people here are going to be really happy because, you know, when we did our polling at the beginning, there were a lot of people that talked about still video. So you're talking about the still video. That's a big thing that people have been looking for. It's always been a difficult thing to find a platform to put our still videos.
What do you mean by
And
still video? What do you mean
I'm
by
sorry, still
like
images, not still
oh,
video.
pictures, images. Okay. Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes, sorry.
There are so many images, and they work so well in VR because there is no
Yeah.
movement and you can really see the details. I love images.
Yeah.
Personally, they're my favorite. Mhm.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And
Yeah.
you know, like I said, I'm going to go back and share my screen for DOVR. I mean, some of the things that you're looking at up there, Star of Thai Cooking, Mystery of Ancient Angkor, those are 3D stereoscopic, and they're getting really good play. The next one that you're looking at, Flying at the Top of the World, that was an insane thing that my wife and I went to Laos, and we went up into these mountains, and they have a zip line course with 5 zip lines that takes you 3 hours to get around. And she wore a helmet cam with the boot cam sticking out of the top, and she goes along the zip line, and that's what you will experience the zip line along with her. And then
That's
the
amazing.
far right there, Hidden Wonders of Yui Narok in the Khao Yai National Park. That was just beautiful waterfall images and in VR 180. So there's a huge variety that's available. Some are an hour long, some are 23 minutes long. I've got dance videos with different girls dancing. Some of those are 5 minutes long. Sometimes I do compilations as well. So there's a lot that you can do with it. The main thing is, if you're going to try and make money with this, then you have to keep the video flow going. I try and put up at least 1 video a week. And, you know, that's what it's just like a TV show. If you know that there's going to be a new TV show every week, you're more likely to watch it. Whereas if you put one up and then you don't put one up for a month, you know, you're not really going to do very well because somebody else is going to put up another one and it's going to push you down in the pile. Now, it's great because people can subscribe to your channel. So then you know, that helps to go ahead and keep them in tune, but you still got to keep giving them fresh content. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I think right now, because the way the player is designed and the app is designed, when you publish a new video, people can actually find it. They find it, they like it, and then they go into your channel and they watch all of the other content that you have. And because we get new users every single day, we're getting a lot of new users, new subscribers, and they want to see more content. So once that's why publishing, I even sometimes I advise just to republish some videos. Like, for example, if something gets lost and it's very old, you can always delete it and just republish it as a fresh content because there will be users and the user base is growing every
I'm
day.
supposed to tell them those secrets, Katya.
Well, I want the creators to succeed. It's my, it's my goal, my main goal, because we are creating the ecosystem. We want to have the platform that brings the creators together and can pay, for the hobby. And it's growing nicely, I have to say. So
It's been
so
great watching
excited.
you guys.
Yes.
It's been great watching you guys build this infrastructure, and it's just you know, if there's a problem, you're accessible. And although I did make Katya admitted
Always.
to me yesterday that I made her turn off her notifications on her messenger because I was sending her so many messages.
Yes, but they're all work related. Something's not working, something is not published, and of course I have to look into it. But
Actually, I have to get with you about another one. I'll send you an email.
oh, there is something sitting. But
Because-
I think, oh
No, go ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering if we are to a point where we can open up to a live Q&A with people.
Absolutely.
Sure,
I think we should.
I had, let me just quickly rifle through this last couple of slides that I've got here. You know, other than DOVR, you know, there is VR tours. You can also do Getty Images. Getty Images has a dedicated 360 and VR 180. They take all the VR videos. Blend Media is another one. I've worked with both of those companies. I went to London. This is me at their office in London, training them back with the GoPro Omni. So there's a lot. Pond 5 does it. Adobe Stock Images even does it. So there are other ways, but I have to say that the best that I have found has been DOVR. And, you know, if you really, you know, I think it's a great time to open up for Q&A. And here's me choking my son at a production that we did where he was the patient being operated on. I'll leave it with that.
Okay.
So please, let's get some questions and conversation going.
Now, there have been a number of questions that have been asked and maybe not quite completely addressed. What I would like to suggest is if you have a question you would like to actually voice to Al, click the raise hand on if you go to the bottom of your screen, you'll see the raise hand, and then I'll open it up so that you can actually talk and to Al. Otherwise, Al, if you want to scroll up just a little bit in the chat, Donnie had a couple questions in there that you might want to address.
Let me see. Okay, yeah, I just expanded it. It's really hard for me to look at the chat while I'm doing it because it distracts so much. Great platform, Jim Michael. Excellent. Thank you. Happy to have you on board. Alex had to leave us, but that's great. Let's see. How creative decisions are made during development. Does the client know what kind of VR they want, or do you help them understand? You know what? Clients, the way that I approach it anyway, it's always an educational process because they don't really understand what's available. They don't really have, sometimes they have some kind of idea about what the finished product they want, but pretty much this is such, even now, it's such a new thing that they don't really understand what they're going for. So you have to kind of take them by the hand and you have to, you know, I've done it long distance, but the best way is in person where you can stick a VR headset on their head and say, okay, here's 360, here's 3D 360, here's VR 180, here's how we can tell your story. Here's what I think is going to work for you. But yes, it's always an educational process and you have to guide them along because that's when you're going to have a happy customer. If you don't, if you just let them do what they tell you they want you to do, it's probably going to flop because they don't know. You know, you're the expert. That's the way that you're supposed to be presenting yourself to your client. Let's see. Distributors, yeah, right now, you know, we're still at that weird situation. There are not really any distributors. I mean, you know, DOVR, nobody's doing what they're doing. Nobody's giving the money that they're giving. So that should be your first stop. Get yourself a channel on there, put free stuff up. Get an audience built, then start doing paid, you know, do the premium stuff. There's lots of different ways to go, but you have to build. It's like any other business. You start out small and then you increase and you kind of find a way forward based on your own personal likes and dislikes, what you want to be able to do. Let's see. Yeah, definitely. Donnie talking about finding distributors and things. It's just impossible. Do I know of any examples? Oh, from first person to third person. I'm working
Oh,
on a
that
couple
was
right
that was
now.
my question. That was my
Yes,
question.
I'm working on a couple right now, but like I said, Senseless, and there was another one that a little horror short that I did, which actually was this still shot, was called Broccoli, and it was about a vegetative patient who actually was still in there, and it was very gut wrenching. You know, it's harder to get actors to set up and do unless you have a budget.
Mm.
You know, and that's always an issue. I'm working on a couple of things that will present that way. Actually, I've got an elephant project that I'm working on, which that was pretty funny because I was sitting there shooting these elephants at this stream, and the elephant came out of the stream, and I got my gimbal and I've got my Canon, and this little elephant sticks his trunk in the water and picks it up, and he shoots water straight into the front of my camera. Thank God my camera was okay. And thank God that I was shooting at 60 frames per second, because I could slow that down so that just as he's about to spray, and it's not really a spray, it's like a chunk. It's like a ball of water coming at you until it hits. So, I mean, that's something, those are going to have some first person and third person views in it. But it's difficult to, like I said, because you need to have money and you need to have backing, and that's not easy to get yet at this point. You know, Meta was financing some things for a while. Meta was buying stuff. Actually, you know, they bought some of my stuff, and the great thing about it is they let me keep it on my channel. So that was fantastic. But then when the whole big thing came out about, you know, Zuckerberg was spending too much money, that cut everybody off. Although I do have some projects in the works with them right now, but it's not 100% confirmed yet. So any other questions? 4 new messages. Let me scroll down. What the point of having videos in 8K or 12K if the headsets are only able to process? Okay, that's a really good question. Why would you shoot in 8K or 12K when you're watching it in the headset, the most you're going to get is 2K or 2K per eye? It's the same reason why people shoot with a RED camera when they're shooting a film, and then they either scale it down or they crop it out. You're getting a denser image, and so you're getting better quality. So the higher the resolution, it's not just a numbers game, and it's not just resolution. It's resolution mixed with lensing. Canon has beautiful lenses. That's one of the things that excited me so much, was that them coming out with this really good quality lens. Also, it's about the bit depth, the color depth. Shooting 12K, 12-bit raw, 8K resolution, unbelievable dynamic range. I mean, I'm getting around 12 to 13 stops out of it. And I can shoot, like I said, night before last, I'm shooting every other week. I'm shooting this burlesque entertainment, and it's a total theater experience. So you've got heavy spotlights and extreme blacks all around it. And you don't want those blacks to be totally lost of detail. And that's where 12-bit color combined with the 8K. So if I can shoot 12K, I'd have to build another bigger computer, and, you know, maybe a couple of pairs of RTX 4090s, because, you know, it's crazy right now. That's the bottleneck at this point, is that when you get into that realm, it takes you so much longer. When I download, even with Thunderbolt 4, when I download a 52-minute CF Express card, it takes a couple of hours. It takes time. And then with VR, you have, and I didn't want to get too much into the post-processing, but you have what I call pre-processing. And that's where you take that VR 180, the two circles, the two fisheyes, and you unwarp them. And then with the software that Canon has created, we can now go ahead and adjust our ISO when you're shooting raw. You can also add some noise reduction to it. You can add some sharpness to it. But even at all of that, when I get done with my 8K VR 180 films, I run them through Topaz Video to make them a little bit sharper and to do better noise reduction. So it's not just about the K. It's not just about the resolution size. Apple Vision, oh yes, Apple Vision Pro, you know, I jokingly said earlier at the beginning, I said, you know, if you guys are not going to buy one, then send me some money so that I can go ahead and buy one, because I'm not going to pay that kind of money for it. But seriously, it's been a fantastic boon for our industry because it's made, Apple has that presence. It makes people aware of what they're doing. Nothing that they're doing that I've seen yet is really new. It's just Appleized. So even the 3D that they're oh my goodness, we're going to do multi-view 3D. So it's 2D when you look at it, but if you're running it on our system, you'll see it in 3D. We had that with 3D stereoscopic. We had what was called MPO files, and there's a lot of people here, I think some people anyway, that, you know, you used those cameras before, and you had to use special software to break it into the side-by-side. So multi-view is not anything different. The only difference is that they're using HEVC. So they're using H.265 basically, which is a more efficient codec, and it looks better. So, I mean, a lot of the stuff, spatial computing, you could do that before with Quest. You can do it now with Quest or Pico. So it's like they're just creating their version of it, which is great. Even if they don't sell a lot of headsets, there's been a boost in headset sales on Quest because of Apple Vision Pro. So yes, it's a really good thing. Animation. Sorry, go ahead, Katya, please.
Oh, no, I've heard that the headset is still very heavy. So the Apple headset, it looks light. And it's supposed to be light because it's Apple, right? It's supposed to be compared to Quest, but it's light. It's too light.
It's
so
very heavy.
It's very heavy, yes. We have all the headsets in the office. I mean, we don't have Apple headset yet, but the feedback is Quest 3 is the best. It's still kind of uncomfortable. You need to get a good strap, but Quest 3 is, it's by far the best. And also, I wanted to say that Duo VR supports 12K videos. We actually, oh, cool. Yeah, this is what you need. You need the,
This
you
is
need
the
like
Babo M3. And this has magnetic battery on the back. You just slap it on and it works. I don't even use the shield anymore. And so this is more of a mixed reality. So you plug it in here on the side, and that puts the battery in charge. And then you slip it on, and now there you go. And it's very comfortable because your head is holding the weight. You notice actually with the Apple Pro, what they're doing is there's the extra strap that goes across the top. Because if you just have that strap around the back of your head, I've heard so many people talking already that it's extremely uncomfortable and it gets heavy. And for me, it would be sitting on my nose, it would kill me. Animation, Nicholas, you asked about animation. I don't really, there's a lot, and there's a lot of terrific VR animation, but I'm not an animation guy, I'm a video guy. And proud of it. Lauren, thank you very much for the compliment. Okay. Anybody else have more questions?
Oh.
Have we got everybody taken care of? Okay, guys, unless anybody else has any more questions. I've done my song and dance for tonight.
Okay, then just
and as Harrison Ford said in the movie, it's not the years, honey, it's the mileage.
That's a good one.
All right, Al, Katya,
Yes.
thank you very, very much. This has been a great presentation. Learned so much, and I've also learned there's so much more to learn.
You know,
Thank
I've
you
been
so
doing this for
much for
40
having
years.
us.
I've been doing this for 40 years now. And
That's a long
in
time.
video and in media. And I still go out on a job and I still learn something new. Almost every time really every time I go out, I learn something new because it's always changing and evolving.
Right,
Especially in the VR industry.
Yes.
yeah,
It's been it's been quite a journey.
and as far as learning, we may have some of that popping up with the conference. So
We've got some really good ideas about that.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
And speaking about
Brendan, thank you.
Yeah.
Jeff, thank you. Everybody's saying thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Wow.
All right, speaking about the conference, we're having tomorrow a very brief kickoff, just kind of explaining what we are doing. If you want to hear more about that and have not done so yet, just go to the IVRPA website. You'll see right on the homepage the link to the webinar kickoff, and you can ask questions, give your ideas, learn where we are so far. And Lauren, could you just real briefly?
Yeah, I'd like to say that you'll see Al and Katya at the conference this year, along with Hugh and Keely and Mick. Eric Ching is said he's going to be there, and our one of our features is going to be Michael Boudet, who worked on the One Ocean SeaWorld display in, or not display, but park in Abu Dhabi, and what he went
Wow.
through on that. So that's going to be it's going to be quite the conference. It's the theme or the title is Immersive Spaces and Beyond, and it will take in a show at the Sphere on Wednesday night, the 9:30 show. And
Fantastic.
if you haven't been to see the Sphere, you're in for a treat.
Yep, and it'll be the first time I'm back in my old hometown. Before 22 years ago, I moved from Las Vegas to Thailand, and I had lived in Las Vegas for 25 years before that.
Oh, wow.
It's a lot different.
It'll be a lot of fun to go back.
Right,
It's a lot different from since the race.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
And we should mention, yes, it is in Las Vegas, and it will be June 25th through 27th.
Yeah.
All right. Again, any other questions? Please ask them. And if not, then we'll wrap it up.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I just see that somebody is asking about DOVR. So yes, there is a link, dovr.com.
Yes.
That's a separate website. And it's also an app. You can just go to the app is free. You can go into your headset if you have Oculus, and you can download it from Oculus Store, install it on your headset, and just have a look around and explore. But to upload the videos to DOVR, you need to go to the website. So you go to the website, to the desktop version, there is a button upload. It's very easy. You just hit the button upload. If you need monetization, you can always get in touch with us. I'll type in my email address, my personal email address for you. If you would like to get in touch, please do. But yes, if you need some more information, just hit me an email and we'll talk about it. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Katya.
All right. I guess that will be a wrap then. I thank all of you for showing up. I hope that you have enjoyed it as much as I have. The recording of this will be available in the members section on the IVRPA website before long. Those of you who found us through the email, there will be an email announcement when it goes live. If you're not a member, really consider joining. It's really quite a valuable $50 that or it's well worth the $50. Okay,
Absolutely.
Remember, join us
Thank you, guys.
tomorrow. Join us tomorrow for a planning thing for the conference tomorrow morning.
Is that, oh yeah, well, I'm going to bed.
It'll be
Yeah.
the same time as today.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good, guys.
okay then.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a very good afternoon. Thanks. Bye. And a
Take
good night,
care.
I guess, for all.
Thank you. It's going to take me some time to wind down after this.
I think so. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.